who's narrating this? Probably someone called Luke, a traveling companion of Paul, a doctor from North Africa. And all the Presbyterian, all the elders, the Presbyterian is the actual Greek, were assembled. And they greeted us. And we told them how God had worked among the Gentiles by his ministry, and they glorified God. And they said to him, but it's probably James speaking, because he said it's James he's gone to see. But you see, brothers, how many myriads of Jews there are who have believed up here. And all are zealous for the law. All in the Greek, zelotai ton nomu. So all are zealous. So that shows that the majority of people up in Jerusalem who follow this movement led by James are zealous for the law. So then you can start to piece together, why are we saying this? Because we're going to get the Zealot movement introduced in Daniel and the Maccabee books. That's why historically it's important to try to pick all this out if you possibly can. So bear with me a last moment here. And as to you, they have been told that you teach falling away from Moses. This is James speaking of disciplining Paul in the book of Acts. We document, very reliable. Telling all Jews among the Gentiles overseas not to circumcise their children or to walk in their ways. Now, does he do that? Is it in his letters? Of course, he's doing it everywhere, and he admits it in his letters. That's what he's doing. What then? What shall we do? A crowd, this is incredible stuff here in the book of Acts. A crowd will surely come, and hear that you have come now. So look, here's what we propose to you. We have 4 men with us who have a vow upon themselves. That's right, they're taking a temporary Nazarite oath. Take these men, because people perceive you as having a lot of money, because you've been around raising money, and you even said in the letter to the Thessalonians, I'm not going up to Jerusalem without money. And I said at one point, don't forget to remember the poor that you quoted me in Galatians. Take these people, be purified, pay their expenses so they can shave their heads, just like the Hajj in Mecca. After they took this Nazarite oath, they shaved their heads. And there's a certain amount of money connected with such procedures. So all may know that the things that they've been told about you are not so, but that you yourself also regularly walk in an orderly way, keeping the law. He doesn't, and he doesn't regularly do it. But as to those of the Gentiles who have believed, we have written, as we said in chapter 15, this is definitely James talking now, in the royal we, judging they should observe no such thing, only to keep themselves from things offered to idols, blood, and what is strangled, and fornication. We'll talk about those things later. 26. Then taking the men on the next day, Paul purified himself with them, went up into the temple so as to declare, fulfilling the days of the purification. So he is willing to do this obscure Nazarite oath to show that he still regularly observes the law, and he's not telling others not to observe the law. And this oath is 7 days. But when the 7 days were about to be completed, the Jews from Asia, that is where he's been preaching, Asia Minor, today's Turkey, saw him in the temple and stirred up the people. And of course this book is anti the Jews who are doing this, but if you flip it and go on the other side and see it from their point of view, you might not feel that they're wrong to say this. Cry out, men, Israelites, help! This is the man who teaches all everywhere, against the people, against the law, and against this place. And now he's bringing Greeks into the temple and has defiled this holy place. Now, I don't say they're right in thinking the way they do, but you have to see Jerusalem in those days like Mecca today. The same thing could happen to you if you walked into Mecca today and were teaching against Muhammad. In fact, worse could happen to you. Anyway, a huge riot ensues, the Roman soldiers come and take him, etc., etc. Let's go back here. Why I'm reading that? Because he's playing off this zealot idea. And if you read all the way through Galatians, you'll see the thing he's angry about is they're circumcising his communities. And that's the thing we just heard about in Acts. You know, that unless you're circumcised according to the law of Moses, again, I'm not for or against, I'm just showing what the arguments are here. Okay, you are my little children, through my labor and pain. Little children is also in a lot of parables in the Gospels where Christ says, suffer the little children to come unto me, and so on and so forth. So I admit that you don't know anything. You're just like little children. You haven't been sophisticated in these things. So, look, you desire to be under the law. Do you not hear the law?
Is this speculation?
Yeah, line 20 and 21 of chapter 4. Do you not hear the law? It is written that Abraham has two sons. Here he's back to his allegorical interpretation. One the slave woman and one the free woman. Okay, I don't know if it's written that. It just says Abraham had a son Ishmael by Hagar, and then he had a tough time having another child until an angel came and told Sarah she was going to have a child when she was 90 years old. And she laughed or something, and the angel said, why do you laugh? She said, what, I'm going to have a child at 90 years old, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of trouble getting Isaac. Well, he's compressed all this into a sentence. Abraham has two sons, one slave and one free. Oh, come on now. That's just for what purposes? Allegory, argument. He's using the scripture to do allegory like Philo and produce an argument. And so here is the argument. It's going to get into slavery and freedom. One from the slave woman, Hagar, that is, and one of the free woman, Sarah. That's not how the Bible puts it, but that's one way you can preach from it. But he that's out of the slave woman has been born after the flesh, and he out of the free woman through the promise. So he's moving into flesh, circumcision, body, stuff like that. And then the free spiritual, the free gift of Christ, and so on. He's representing Sarah as symbolizing the new Christian free gift of Christ and grace. You see? You don't see these things because he compresses. We're trying to uncompress. And then he gets to the point that he wants to make, that he mentioned the promise beforehand, which is Christ. Which things are allegory? Line 24. So these are allegories, and he's using the allegorical method of Philo of Alexandria. And there are two covenants. Now I'm getting to the point of the allegory. One from Mount, we did this already, I'll do it quick. One from Mount Sinai bringing slavery, meaning slavery to the law, because Mount Sinai is where Moses got the law. Again, people who follow the law wouldn't think that's true. And this is Hagar, and I told you before, this is not Hagar. The Jews don't consider themselves descendants of Hagar. The DNA wouldn't even bear that out. So it's all allegory, and he's flipped it all around, reversed everything. And for simple-minded people who don't care about fact or anything like that, it works.